event after event, the 458s were just failing. We run the Ferrari 458. We own 4 or 5 of them currently. I don't know if anybody else has experienced this, but the 458 transmission has a sensor for, obviously it's a dual clutch, so you've got 1, 3, 5 and 2, 4, 6. I'm not sure if I have those numbers right, but so you can basically run the car in half your gears when the transmission fails. But for whatever reason, some timing in the universe happened where all of our 458s in a given year basically had transmission failures, where it's a sensor on the clutch in the 458 fails and then prohibits you from using the odd or even number gears depending on which sensors fail. So one year we had this where event after event, the 458s were just failing. And on tour we actually carry 2 458s. I think we might have 3 on tour as we speak, but so one would sit and it was a huge hassle for customer service, but we typically would be able to get most people moved into the other 458 or have them come back the next day or something to drive that car. We also had a F430, which plenty of people were like, oh sure, I'll drive that. But there's one instance I remember specifically at Charlotte Motor Speedway, and one 458 goes down and we get everybody moved into another car and spread out amongst some other cars. Then the second 458 fails like within the next couple hours. So 2 of our 458s are down. We're trying to scramble to get everybody moved into other cars. This was also one of the events where we had the 570S. So we're like, would you like to drive the 570S? And some people were like, sure, I'll drive the 570S instead. That car failed that event as well. So we had 3 cars go down sitting in a garage with probably 100 people who were displaced at the time. We were trying to move them around. And that was just one of those events where it just didn't seem like anything would go right. You feel so bad for the person who's standing in line waiting to drive that car, and then we go, got some bad news, that car's not gonna work for you today, but here's some great news, we'll get you in a McLaren. And the next thing you know, sorry guys, the McLaren's down, we'll get you in another car. And that event actually ended up having 4 cars go down. After the McLaren, I forget which the 4th one was, but 4 of our 10 cars at the time were sitting. And that's just one of those things where you just want to pull your hair out because you feel so bad for these people. There's nothing we can do about it at the time until we get it back to the shop. So when you're out on the road with your team, like there's only so much you can fix. You can fix brakes, you can fix small engine issues, sensors here and there, but there's nothing you can do about a catastrophic failure. So we fixed all those Ferraris, and actually we fixed one of those transmissions. We rebuilt one of them. We put a new one in another one of them, and then we actually ended up selling one of the Ferraris for another 458. Then, here a month later, that one we just bought, full failure of that transmission, and the one we had rebuilt also failed in the summer. So I think, heat's your worst enemy out there, and I think the heat those cars get driven so hard. It's also one of the most popular cars that when you put, a few hundred miles on a racetrack in a Ferrari day after day after day, things are bound to fail. But it was just the timing in the universe where our entire summer season was just riddled with these Ferrari transmission issues, and fortunately we haven't had any since. I don't know why, it was just a timing situation. So the transmissions were about 30 grand each, and unfortunately we weren't really getting much help from Ferrari from a warranty perspective. It was not good on the good old checkbook for the company, but we got through it and ultimately still got everybody to, behind the wheel of their dream car. That's, again, failure is not an option for us. So whatever it takes, oftentimes it's really expensive. We'll do what we can.